Well, sadly, another Islamic preacher has been revealed for inciting hate and violence, this time in Melbourne. Last night we showed you Brother Ismail's teachings in Sydney. Here's, have a look.
If the Australian government like it or not, if the ASIO likes it or not, if they want to deport me from Australia or not, the jihad is the solution for the ummah.
Advocating jihad. Well, now there's Islamic scholar Nassim Abdi and the comments that he made just a few days after the terror attack.
When it comes to the media's response, one of the things that we mentioned already is the constant use of the words innocent victims. Does anyone here want to say an innocent victim get hurt, Jewish or otherwise? No one wants to say innocent victim get hurt. So they use always innocent victim, innocent victim, innocent victim. These were not innocent victims, as we mentioned. These were people on the borders. There were army soldiers. There were people who were infuriating the Palestinian people. Secondly, when it comes to innocent victims, the women that they showed, you never hear them talking about the men. You never hear them talking about the soldiers. They always say women, children, women, children, women, children. Obviously, this is the soft part in people's hearts. Which women did you see on the news? Did you see the ugly ones? Did anyone see any ugly women on the news? Honest question. No. There was no ugly women on the news. It looked like, mashallah, Victoria's Secret supermodels, tabarakallah. This is human psychology. They put these women there for what reason? To show that we are beautiful women, we are free women. They've got them dressed in their skimpy clothing. We are just like you in the West. We enjoy the same freedoms, the same liberal understandings as you guys. Help us, be with us, we are one against these savages, against these beasts.
It's just truly terrifying that there's this level of hatred, this level of extremism in Melbourne and in Sydney, right in the hearts of our community. And meanwhile, protesters and union members are planning to block an Israeli ship from docking in Sydney. Ben Fordham revealing this on air today. And then over in the US, a Jewish man, not elderly, just 65, died after he was beaten by a pro-Palestinian protester in Los Angeles, according to the police department. This rise in anti-Semitism is devastating and despicable. There are hundreds of other examples. And you don't hear the Greens, who stormed out of the Senate yesterday, calling it out. But Israeli President Isaac Herzog spoke about this anti-Semitism in an interview he's done with Piers Morgan that's airing later tonight. He said the international community need to tell Hamas and Hamas supporters that they're enabling this evil regime. And he spoke about how families were tied up with barbed wire, burnt to death. He asked, quite rightly, why would a 9-month-old baby be kidnapped? And by the way, seeing as we're now a month on from those kidnappings, that baby is now 10 months old, still separated from his parents. Why would a 3-year-old be taken hostage after her entire family was killed? Have a look at what Isaac Herzog had to say.
There must be no justification under any circumstances, none whatsoever, to the atrocities that we have seen and gone through. And no justification to terror, none whatsoever. By the way, this hate regime that attacked us, the first thing they'll do, unfortunately, they'll try to attack Jordan as well. We're all in this together. They'll try to attack other regimes as well. They're all in this together. We're all in this together. We are all nations who want to move to peace, and we're attacked by this philosophy of hate of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Jihad, and the rest.
All right, Sky News hosts Paul Murray and Liz Storer are here with me now. Look, I think it's a good point that, you know, the West and the left seem to think, oh, these pro-Palestinian rallies, they're just so peaceful. And they forget that the reason Israel has gone to war in the first place is because of this terrorism that struck at the heart of its people. Paul, we're now seeing preachers in Sydney and in Melbourne celebrating these attacks, calling for jihad here in the heart of our main cities.
I want to know whose job it is in the Federal Police or ASIO to monitor what's being put on social media. Why do I say that? Because this stuff is still freely available on the websites, on the Facebook pages of the people that are saying it, still freely available on YouTube, which means this stuff, these people are so brazen in their evil that they think that they can get away with posting it in Australia, let alone saying it at whatever the version of the pulpit is inside those community centres. That means that all of the efforts Australia has made to try to go after radical Islam have now started to fade or fail or look the other way as progressives have attempted to say that the threat to violence in this country is right-wing extremism. Right-wing extremism. Remember when Christina Keneally was on her way to becoming the Home Affairs Minister if Bill Shorten ended up becoming the Prime Minister? Same plan, of course, when it was Albo doing so. Her obsession was right-wing terrorism, right-wing terrorism. ASIO constantly asked about right-wing terrorism, right-wing terrorism. Well, we have slowly over the past 10 years stopped talking about the threat from within. And the threat from within are not Islamic people, but the people who preach crap like that. And they're able to brazenly get away with it. And what is sending me crazy right now, is Claire O'Neill is the Home Affairs Minister, the person who would be responsible for getting rid of that hate preacher. Nothing. She's said nothing. She'll do a press conference when she wants to lay into somebody about data releasing, but nothing on this. No tweets, no interviews, nothing. Why? Instead, 24, 48 hours. We're still calling him by the alias that he wants us to call him. How has he not been named by now?
Yeah. Indeed. And also, this has to be pointed out, where is the comprehensive and visceral condemnation from those in the Muslim community?
Correct.
The religious centre that Brother Ismail gave his hate-filled sermon in, they refused to condemn it.
Correct.
So they had the opportunity to say, oh my goodness, no, because every religion has nut jobs where they're like,
absolutely.
please do not confuse us with this person. We haven't been hearing any of that.
That's the
and
point.
I think
Exile the
Australian,
extremists.
Yeah, and everyday Aussies keep being told, don't confuse Palestinians with Hamas, don't confuse all of this with Muslims in general. Well, you could help out the everyday person in making that very important distinction by making comprehensive, absolutely unapologetic statements to say, we are appalled that this person was even behind a pulpit. This should never have happened. We don't know how many people is in that congregation on any given day that they're spewing this utter hatred, literally calling for Jews to be killed.
But that's what terrifies me as a Jewish person, Paul, is that, you know, we think it's just the odd person here or there, but at that protest or rally or whatever it was at the Opera House, 2 days after the terror attacks, before there was any Israeli government response, there was a whole large element there of people saying, gas the Jews, kill the Jews. Every single rally we've seen has had anti-Semitic elements. The fact that there even are rallies or were rallies in the wake of the terror attacks before any response had started shows that this is a hatred of Jews and of Israel.
Absolutely.
So that's what's terrifying to me. At what point, you know, is our government taking this seriously? Because I know that the intelligence agencies conducted a climate change review. They had Andrew Shearer, the top spy, conduct a climate change review. Are they taking this seriously?
No.
Are they protecting the community I'm part of?
Well, look, whatever happens behind the scenes, and we all know that when it comes to the worst things that happen, the police have to get it 100% right all the time. To prevent the things that we never see, right? Okay. They, of course, get it wrong every now and then, which means we end up seeing some of the things that end up taking lives in terms of terrorist attacks, right? But in terms of this, it's very clear what the softly approach is of the modern bureaucracy and the modern leadership of law enforcement. Interesting inquiry, and good on the people in the New South Wales Parliament who are trying to go through every little detail about that nonsense, that disgrace. I'm not going to call it rally, it is a riot that was out the front of the Opera House. And they've been able to uncover, police knew for days in the lead up to it that somebody was going to bring a flare and somebody was going... Okay, well, if you knew somebody was going to bring something like that to the SCG, you'd find them and stop them.
Exactly.
Why wasn't it found and stopped on the very day where the unapproved protest, a couple of days after what happened on October the 7th, was happening at Town Hall? The police could have ringed it off and not let it walk. Instead, they let it walk, and the police turn around and say, we can't control 1,000 people. So if your federal government can't name and shame this bloke who's one of the preachers. If your federal police can't say, we are watching you and we will get you, if the funding organisations that any of these organisations that refuse to condemn that behaviour do not pull funding, or where is the head of the AFP or ASIO today saying, here's the message to every lunatic in Australia. Stop it, because we can see you, and if we see you doing it, we will arrest you. And one last thing, I'm kind of annoyed that
We can tell. We're glad.
Correct, but I'm kind of annoyed that it was revealed what this protest, this blockade, is going to be of the Israeli ship tomorrow. Why? Because New South Wales has passed laws that were focused on those blockade Australia lunatics. If you get in the way of trains, mass movement, you can be immediately arrested and jailed. By tipping everyone off that it's going to happen, the protest may not happen. Part of me wished the protest happened so the police could yank, and take a dozen of people and throw them in jail.
We haven't seen that happen even with those blockade crazies. Even when they get taken to court, they get let off, soft touch, usually something mental
Correct,
related.
but they spend time in jail through that process. I agree they don't spend enough time.
And then they appeal,
and they
get
say
out
that I
and
was
say
emotionally
they're going to sue for the 2 weeks that they spent in jail. I'm
100%.
glad you bring up this blockade of Port Botany, because they've already quite successfully done this at Tacoma in Washington. There was a similar rally. There was a US military ship that was trying to load on supplies for Israel, including weaponry. These guys got in the way, caused a scene. I'm still not sure what's come about as a result, but bring on the water cannons, like, for crying out loud.
100%.
There just seems to be no justice here. And we've already seen the approach from the AFP and others. Our law enforcement's go-to strategy seems to be, let's appease the violent group.
Correct.
And that's what we're seeing.
Correct.
Yeah.
In order to just keep them appeased. And we do that by telling the odd Israeli who dares to stick up some hostage posters, you've got to take those down, as we saw yesterday. And that just encourages more.
But
Sorry.
Liz, we'll see you at 10 o'clock. Paul, we'll see you at 9 o'clock. Do not apologise. I'm so grateful for
We're
your
fired
strength
up. We're
and your
ready to go.
anger, and particularly your reporting on uncovering Anne Ray Hadley's what the police knew.
Oh, more
before
tonight
that
at 9.
protest.
Way more.
Can't wait. Thank
See you
you,
now.
Paul. See you guys.
Cheers.